Imagine facing an enemy who feels no pain, who fears no death, who charges at you, screaming, foaming at the mouth, eyes completely wild. No armor, sometimes no clothes, just pure, unstoppable rage. Your trained soldiers frozen in terror, your weapons seeming useless, your formations breaking apart. These were not monsters from mythology. These were real men, Viking Berserkers. And the mere sound of their name was enough to make entire armies turn and run. Before we talk about the Berserkers, we need to understand the world they came from. Scandinavia, 8th to 11th century AD. A land of dramatic fjords, endless forests, brutal winters, and a people forged by constant struggle against nature itself. The Vikings were not simply raiders and pirates, though they were certainly that. They were farmers, traders, explorers, and craftsmen who built the most advanced ships the medieval world had ever seen. Ships so perfectly designed they could cross the open Atlantic Ocean, reaching North America 500 years before Columbus. Ships shallow enough to sail directly up rivers, striking deep into the heart of Europe. The Vikings raided Paris, settled Ireland, conquered England, established Russia, traded with Constantinople and the Islamic caliphates. They were arguably the most geographically far-reaching people of the medieval world, and their culture was built around one central value above all others: courage in battle. Their religion, Norse mythology, promised that warriors who died bravely in battle would be taken by the Valkyries to Valhalla, Odin's great hall, where they would feast and fight forever until the final battle of Ragnarok. In this worldview, dying in bed of old age was shameful. Dying in battle, sword in hand, was the highest honor. This belief system created warriors of extraordinary ferocity. But among even these fearsome fighters, there existed a special class, a brotherhood of warriors so terrifying that they were in a category entirely their own: the Berserkers. The word berserker comes from Old Norse. Most scholars believe it means one of two things: bear shirt, from bear meaning bear and serker meaning shirt or coat, or bare shirt, meaning they fought without armor, bare to the elements. Both interpretations tell you something important. The berserker was associated with animals, specifically the bear and the wolf, the two most feared predators of the Norse world. They did not fight like men, they fought like beasts. In the Old Norse sagas, the great epic stories of Viking culture, berserkers appear repeatedly as both heroes and forces of nature. The Ynglinga saga, one of the oldest Norse historical texts, describes them directly. It says Odin's men went to battle without armor, raging like dogs or wolves, biting their shields, strong as bears or bulls, killing men with a single blow, and neither fire nor iron could hurt them. Neither fire nor iron could hurt them. This was not just poetic exaggeration. The sagas record dozens of accounts of berserkers absorbing wounds that should have been instantly fatal, and continuing to fight, continuing to kill, until the battle rage finally faded and they collapsed. The defining characteristic of the berserker was the rage. Called in Old Norse, berserksganger, meaning going berserk. Contemporary accounts, both Norse and from terrified victims across Europe, describe the same phenomenon consistently. Before battle, the berserker would enter a state that seemed almost supernatural. They would begin trembling, their faces changed color, turning pale, then bright red. They would bite their own shields, growl like animals. Some accounts described foaming at the mouth. Their strength appeared to increase dramatically beyond normal human capacity. They seemed to feel no pain from wounds that would incapacitate ordinary men. They screamed and howled throughout the entire battle, a sound witnesses described as unlike anything human. And when it was over, when the rage finally faded, they would collapse in complete exhaustion, sometimes unconscious for hours, sometimes sleeping for an entire day. So what was actually happening? Was this supernatural power granted by Odin himself? Was it drug-induced? Was it a form of combat psychology so extreme it crossed into altered consciousness? This is where it gets genuinely fascinating, because modern science may have finally found the answer. Historians and scientists have debated for centuries what actually caused the berserker state. Theory 1. Adrenaline and self-induced trance. Some researchers believe berserkers were masters of psychological self-conditioning. Through years of training, ritual preparation, rhythmic chanting, drumming, and deliberate mental techniques, they learned to trigger extreme adrenaline responses on command. Adrenaline in extreme doses does exactly what the sagas describe: massively increased strength, reduced pain sensitivity, tunnel vision focus, and a mental state that overrides normal fear responses. Elite soldiers today, Navy SEALs, Special Forces, describe similar states of combat flow where fear disappears and performance exceeds normal human limits. Theory 2. Alcohol and hallucinogens. Some historians have suggested berserkers consumed large quantities of alcohol before battle, lowering inhibitions and pain sensitivity. Others have pointed to Amanita muscaria, the famous red and white spotted mushroom found throughout Scandinavia, which contains powerful psychoactive compounds that can induce states of superhuman strength perception, aggression, and complete dissociation from pain. Several academic papers have argued that the specific symptoms described in the sagas, the trembling, color changes, strength increase, pain immunity, and post-battle collapse and sleep, match Amanita muscaria intoxication almost perfectly. Theory 3. Epilepsy or extreme psychological dissociation. A minority of researchers believe some berserkers may have had neurological conditions, forms of epilepsy or dissociative disorder that were interpreted by Norse culture as divine gifts from Odin. The most likely truth? All of these factors combined, in different individuals, in different circumstances. The berserker tradition was probably not a single phenomenon, but a collection of techniques and individuals united by one outcome: superhuman performance in battle. So what was it actually like to face a berserker in battle? Contemporary accounts from across Europe paint a consistent picture: horrifying. Medieval battles were already terrifying. Two shield walls of armored men smashing into each other, stabbing, hacking, screaming. But the berserkers did not fight in shield walls. They were shock troops, used specifically to break enemy formations. They would charge ahead of the main Viking force, screaming, weapons whirling, hitting the enemy line before it was psychologically prepared. The effect on enemy soldiers was described repeatedly in historical sources as something close to mass panic. English chronicles from Viking raids describe soldiers, trained, experienced fighters, simply breaking and running when berserkers appeared. Not because they calculated they would lose, but because something primal in the human brain, some ancient instinct for self-preservation, told them that what was coming at them was not entirely human. The berserkers reportedly preferred two-handed weapons, axes and swords that sacrificed defense for devastating offensive power. They did not try to not get hit. They simply did not care if they got hit. A fighter who does not care about self-preservation is, from a tactical perspective, almost impossible to fight conventionally. Every combat system humans have ever developed assumes the opponent wants to survive. Berserkers removed that assumption, and it made them virtually unstoppable. But berserkers were not just battlefield weapons. They occupied a fascinating and deeply contradictory position in Norse society. On one hand, they were elite warriors, the most feared fighters in the most feared military culture in medieval Europe. Kings and jarls, Norse chieftains, actively recruited berserkers as personal bodyguards and shock troops. To have berserkers in your warband was a mark of power and prestige. The legendary Norse king Harald Fairhair, who united Norway in the late 9th century, reportedly had a personal unit of berserkers who fought at the front of every battle, protecting the king's own ship. But on the other hand, a man who could lose control and enter killing rage at any moment was also deeply dangerous in peacetime. The sagas are full of accounts of berserkers causing chaos when not at war, starting fights at feasts, threatening innocent people, demanding women and property through intimidation. They were, in modern psychological terms, men with severe impulse control problems, possibly suffering from what we today might recognize as PTSD, antisocial personality disorder, or rage disorders. The Norse solution was practical. Keep them busy fighting. A berserker on a raid was an asset. A berserker sitting idle in a village was a catastrophe waiting to happen. The Norse sagas preserve the stories of several famous berserkers, men whose names were still being told centuries after their deaths. Kveldulf, Evening Wolf, one of the most famous berserkers in the sagas, described as a man who was calm and reasonable by day, but as evening approached, would become increasingly dark, irritable, and dangerous. He fought in a state the sagas describe as shape-shifting, as if he literally became a wolf. Modern readers recognize in this description something that sounds remarkably like a dissociative episode triggered by specific environmental cues. Egil Skallagrimsson, possibly the most famous berserker in all of Norse literature, the subject of Egil's saga, one of the greatest of all the sagas. Egil was simultaneously a brilliant poet, composing complex verse that is still studied today, and a violent, unpredictable warrior who killed his first man at age 7. 7 years old. He was also described as physically grotesque, an enormous, misshapen head, beetle brows, and a terrifying face, which the saga attributes to his berserker nature. Modern medical researchers have actually analyzed Egil's described symptoms and appearance and suggested he may have suffered from Paget's disease, a bone disorder, combined with genuine psychological disturbance. Ivar the Boneless, one of the leaders of the great heathen army that invaded England in 865 AD, Ivar was described as fighting in a berserker state, despite reportedly being unable to walk. He was carried into battle on a shield, and still inspired terror. These men were not fictional, they were real, and the fear they inspired was real. The berserkers were not just a cultural phenomenon. They had real and lasting impact on European history. The Viking raids that began in 793 AD with the sack of the monastery of Lindisfarne off the English coast shocked the entire Christian world. Monks described the raiders as pagans from the north, sent by God as punishment. The sheer psychological terror of Viking raids, and the berserkers who led them, fundamentally changed how medieval European societies organized themselves. Kings who had been content with loose, decentralized authority suddenly understood they needed walls, castles, professional armies, centralized power. The Viking Age and the terror of warriors like the Berserkers accelerated the development of medieval European feudalism. The Normans, Vikings who settled in France and adopted French culture, carried this military tradition to its ultimate expression. In 1066, William the Conqueror, himself of Viking descent, invaded England at the Battle of Hastings. And the tactics his army used, the aggressive shock assault, the psychological pressure of sudden, violent attack, carried the ghost of the Berserker tradition into the Norman conquest of England. The Berserkers are gone, but their influence changed the shape of the world. By the 11th and 12th centuries, the Berserker tradition was dying. Two forces combined to end it. First, Christianity. As Scandinavia converted to Christianity, the Norse religious framework that gave Berserkers their identity and purpose disappeared. There was no more Odin, no more Valhalla, no more honor in dying in battle rage. The new religion emphasized peace, restraint, and forgiveness, qualities that were, to put it gently, not the Berserkers' strongest characteristics. Second, changing military technology and tactics. The shield wall tactics that Berserkers were designed to break were themselves evolving. Heavier armor, more sophisticated formations, castle fortifications, and crossbows changed the nature of warfare in ways that made unarmored human shock troops increasingly impractical. A charging berserker in the 9th century could break a shield wall of terrified farmers. A charging berserker in the 12th century got shot by crossbows from behind castle walls. The world had moved on. And then, in 1123 AD, the Norse legal code of Iceland officially banned berserkers. They were declared outlaws, subject to immediate exile or death. The tradition that had terrified Europe for 300 years was made illegal, and within a generation, it was gone. The berserkers have been gone for nearly 1,000 years. And yet, their legacy is everywhere. The word berserk, meaning out of control, wildly aggressive, is used in every major language on Earth today. When you say someone has gone berserk, you are using a word that comes directly from Norse warriors who fought in animal skins 1,000 years ago. Marvel's Thor and the entire Norse mythology revival in modern popular culture draws directly from the world the berserkers inhabited. Military psychologists study berserker accounts to understand extreme combat stress responses. Neuroscientists reference them in research on adrenaline, dissociation, and pain suppression. The berserkers fascinate us because they represent something both terrifying and deeply human. The capacity, under the right circumstances, for ordinary men to transcend the normal limits of human performance, to feel no fear, to feel no pain, to keep fighting long past the point where any rational person would stop. We see versions of this today in soldiers who carry wounded comrades for miles on broken legs, in parents who lift cars off trapped children, in athletes who perform impossibly in moments of desperate necessity. The berserker was not a monster. He was a human being pushed to the absolute edge of what human beings can do. And something extraordinary emerged from that edge. The berserkers walked out of the frozen north and made the entire medieval world tremble. They were feared from the monasteries of Ireland to the palaces of Constantinople. They shaped European history, changed military tactics, left their name in every language on earth. And they did it all with nothing but rage, belief, and the terrifying human will to fight. They were not supernatural. They were not monsters. They were men, who had found a way to become something more than men. If this video gave you something, like it. It helps this channel more than you know. Subscribe for more deep dives into history's most extraordinary warriors and civilizations. And tell me in the comments, do you think the Berserker rage was real? Or was it all psychological? I will see you in the next one.